Disney suspends Jimmy Kimmel Live. Disney's ABC network took the drastic step of pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely on September 17, 2025. The suspension was triggered by controversial remarks Jimmy Kimmel made on air about the recent assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
This is from Monday night in his Monday evening monologue. Kimmel suggested that the alleged killer of Charlie Kirk might have been a pro-Trump Republican.
Disney CEO Bob Iger and Disney Entertainment co-chair Dana Walden personally made the decision to halt Kimmel's show after these remarks, effectively pulling the plug on the late-night program. Jimmy Kimmel's monologue on September 15, 2025 included this line.
He had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
He accused some conservative media and political figures of trying to distance themselves from the shooter while also using Kirk's death to gain political advantage. Authorities had not confirmed any political affiliation of the shooter at that point. Following that, Kimmel also made a remark about President Trump's response to Kirk's death, likening it to how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, meaning that it seemed immature or inadequate. FCC Chair Brendan Carr responded publicly, calling Kimmel's comments truly sick and saying there was a strong case for regulatory consequences for ABC and Disney, accusing the show of spreading misinformation. He suggested broadcast license holders have obligations under law, that they serve the public interest, and that this kind of commentary might violate those obligations. Major ABC-affiliated station groups, notably Nexstar Media Group and Sinclair Broadcast Group, reacted by pulling Jimmy Kimmel Live from their local ABC affiliates for the foreseeable future. They called Kimmel's remarks offensive and insensitive, and said they did not reflect what local communities expect. Disney executives, including CEO Bob Iger and entertainment co-chair Dana Walden, reportedly attempted to craft a statement or public response from Kimmel to calm the backlash, but none of the proposed statements satisfied all parties. As tensions rose, including threats directed toward Kimmel and his staff, Disney and ABC leadership decided to suspend the show indefinitely, and Kimmel was told he could amend things by donating directly to the Kirk family, along with issuing a public apology, a condition pushed by affiliates who refused to air his show until both steps were taken. Disney-owned ABC's decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live indefinitely prompted applause from prominent conservatives. President Donald Trump celebrated the suspension as great news for America, blasting Kimmel as untalented and claiming ABC finally had the courage to do what was needed. On a trip back from Britain, Trump even mused that broadcasters who hit Trump with negative coverage should have their FCC licenses revoked. His FCC chairman, Brendan Carr, echoed that sentiment, calling Kimmel's monologue truly sick and suggesting Disney's license was in jeopardy unless the misinformation was addressed. Many Trump allies argued that Kimmel's remarks crossed a line, characterizing them as dangerous hate speech that could incite violence. Some on the right framed the host's ouster not as censorship but as overdue accountability. Cancel culture? Number. Consequence culture, wrote conservative pundit Riley Gaines, applauding ABC for finally punishing Kimmel's offensive comments. Similarly, podcast host Megyn Kelly insisted Kimmel had smeared the MAGA movement with a vile, disgusting lie and got what he deserved. Other hardline voices went further. For example, commentator Mark Levin rejoiced that the pathetic hate-monger Kimmel was canned better late than never. Overall, many Republicans and pro-Trump figures openly cheered Kimmel's downfall as just desserts for a comedian they felt had long ridiculed their side. Meanwhile, liberal and centrist political figures reacted with outrage, casting the suspension as a dangerous act of censorship. Former President Barack Obama condemned the move as the culmination of government coercion, warning that threatening media companies to silence critics is precisely what the First Amendment forbids. Top Democrats accused the Trump White House of trampling free speech. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer blasted Trump's campaign of threats against civil society, calling it an assault on everything this country has stood for. Schumer demanded FCC Chair Carr resign or be fired for abusing regulatory power, and he unveiled a No Political Enemies Act aimed at barring officials from retaliating against speech they dislike. California Governor Gavin Newsom lambasted ABC's decision as corrupt, despicable, and spineless, describing it as part of a coordinated effort to control the media. The GOP does not believe in free speech. They are censoring you in real time, Newsom warned on social media. Democratic Representative Dan Goldman was similarly scathing, saying he felt disgust both at Trump's authoritarian goons and at Disney for folding, warning that if a president can muzzle one critic, it could be you tomorrow. Even usually measured voices sounded the alarm. This isn't just a media story, it's a democracy story, said former Biden press secretary Jen Psaki, calling Kimmel's removal a watershed moment for American free expression. Across the board, Democratic officials portrayed the incident as an ominous step toward authoritarianism. Major media outlets and commentators split sharply in their coverage and tone. Right-leaning media generally defended ABC's action or emphasized Kimmel's provocation. Some noted that Kimmel's controversial monologue mischaracterized the facts, arguing he unfairly linked the suspect to the MAGA gang. Coverage highlighted voices calling Kimmel's take tasteless, stupid, and factually vacant. Conservative commentators celebrated the move as overdue, with pundits saying this was consequence culture in action. At the same time, even some conservative commentators voiced unease about government involvement, warning that FCC influence over programming could set a dangerous precedent. Liberal and mainstream outlets cast the story as a chilling example of political censorship. Analysts argued that America is a less free place if late-night comedians cannot say what they want. They warned that offended viewers can always change the channel, but government-fueled firings create a chilling effect across media. Progressive commentators drew parallels to authoritarian regimes and called the incident an alarming low point for free expression under political pressure. Overall, the media narrative diverged along ideological lines, with conservative outlets stressing that Kimmel had it coming, and liberal outlets raising alarms that political vendettas are now silencing entertainers. Beyond officials and pundits, the broader public response has been intense and polarized. In Los Angeles, fans and free speech advocates took to the street. Roughly 150 protesters gathered outside Kimmel's Hollywood studio the day after the suspension. They carried signs like, "Don't bend a knee to Trump and douse the mouse," along with calls to cancel Disney+. Drivers passing by honked in support as demonstrators decried what they saw as the muzzling of a comedian by government fiat. Protesters said that when comedians can't make fun of leaders, you know we're going down a dark road. On social media, outrage spread rapidly among many viewers. Within hours, hashtags like #StandWithKimmel and #DefendFreeSpeech trended across platforms. Countless users, including celebrities and everyday fans, slammed ABC's decision as the actual cancel culture everyone claims to hate. Memes and messages declaring "I stand with Kimmel" circulated widely, and some urged canceling Disney subscriptions in protest. That call quickly expanded into a broader boycott movement. People began publicly canceling subscriptions to Disney+, Hulu, and ESPN+, along with dropping bundled streaming services like HBO Max that are often packaged with Disney promotions. Others announced they were scrapping planned trips to Disney theme parks, cruises, and vacation packages. The message spreading online was that if Disney was willing to silence a critic, consumers would hit the company in its wallet. At the same time, a wave of enthusiasm broke out in Trump-friendly corners of social media. Many conservatives applauded ABC for finally firing a comedian they felt had mocked them for years. Right-leaning influencers touted the suspension as a major culture war victory. Some mocked Kimmel's supporters, while others accused free speech defenders of hypocrisy, noting that conservative voices like Roseanne Barr had been canceled years before. Kimmel's supporters countered that many who decried cancel culture were now celebrating it. Public discourse has become a partisan flashpoint, with each side seeing the incident as proof of their long-held beliefs about media bias and authoritarianism. Kimmel's fellow entertainers reacted swiftly, almost unanimously on the left in defending him, while a few on the right approved of his ouster. Within the late-night TV world, there was an outpouring of solidarity. Stephen Colbert condemned ABC's move as a blatant assault on free speech. Jimmy Fallon expressed bewilderment and support for Kimmel, calling him a decent, funny, loving guy. Seth Meyers mocked the censorship pressure by satirically praising Trump. Jon Stewart returned to The Daily Show with an exaggerated parody of administration-controlled comedy, lampooning authoritarian propaganda. Prominent veteran hosts and comedians outside the nightly shows also spoke out. David Letterman warned that this is managed media and a dangerous precedent. A coalition of Hollywood unions blasted the suspension as bowing to government intimidation. The ACLU called it unconstitutional, while actors like Ben Stiller, Henry Winkler, Wanda Sykes, Rosie O'Donnell, and Gene Smart publicly defended Kimmel. Many celebrities voiced alarm that this could happen to any entertainer who criticizes those in power. Not everyone sided with Kimmel. Conservative-leaning entertainers like Rob Schneider and Kevin Sorbo defended ABC's action, saying Kimmel's remarks showed poor judgment. Roseanne Barr joked about filling in for Kimmel, pointing out the irony since she herself was fired years earlier under a liberal outcry. Some right-wing media figures said this was long overdue, highlighting how different the entertainment industry looks when the political tables turn. Still, the overwhelming majority of Hollywood voices expressed solidarity with Kimmel. One reason Disney moved swiftly to suspend Kimmel was intense pressure from its affiliates. Nexstar Media Group announced it would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live across its ABC affiliates for the foreseeable future unless the network addressed Kimmel's remarks. Another major affiliate owner, Sinclair Broadcast Group, quickly followed suit. This revolt by dozens of stations covering huge swaths of the country left ABC little choice but to act. On the corporate side, advertisers and investors showed signs of nervousness. Disney is in the middle of seeking FCC approval for a major business deal, which may have made the company especially wary of antagonizing regulators. Advertisers typically avoid political firestorms, but consumer campaigns urging boycotts of Disney services began trending quickly. Even Disney talent weighed in. Actress Tatiana Maslany, star of She-Hulk, publicly urged fans to boycott Disney in protest of Kimmel's suspension. At the same time, conservative groups pressured advertisers to avoid supporting Kimmel's program, framing loyalty to him as endorsement of hate. Some ABC stations even replaced his time slot with tributes to Charlie Kirk. Media experts warned that if politically motivated suspensions become the norm, networks could face both advertiser boycotts from angry viewers and reluctance from creative talent who fear censorship. The Kimmel controversy is not only a cultural flashpoint, but also a business shockwave for the television industry. Disney's executives face internal dissent following the suspension. Dozens of Disney and ABC staffers have expressed anger and disappointment, criticizing leadership for bowing to external pressure. Some employees see the decision as compromising editorial independence and corporate values. Talks are reportedly underway between Kimmel's team and Disney regarding whether the show can return. Kimmel's contract with ABC remains in force through May 2026, so he is still being paid under its terms despite the suspension. However, the suspension has triggered discussions about modifying his contract, future oversight of content, and potential clauses related to broadcast compliance and advertiser or affiliate sensitivity. Ratings for Jimmy Kimmel Live had already been declining before this incident. Analysts now view the suspension as likely accelerating loss of viewership and weakening Kimmel's bargaining position. Some advertisers may pull back or demand assurances before returning, given the perceived risk. Disney's brand reputation may suffer in certain segments. Consumer boycotts have been organized, especially by viewers who see the suspension as undermining free speech. Some subscribers, Disney employees, and creative talent have publicly criticized the decision. On the regulatory front, the FCC, under its current leadership, may be more emboldened to issue warnings or penalties to broadcasters for content deemed politically sensitive. Disney's move is being closely watched by media executives and other networks as precedent. Whether political pressure plus regulatory threats can force content removal or shape programming decisions. Media analysts suggest late-night TV is now in a tighter bind. Rising polarization, streaming competition, and advertiser wariness mean that similarly controversial content in the future may either be avoided or heavily self-censored by networks. Kimmel's public visibility has taken a hit from this suspension, but he remains supported by many peers and segments of the public. Whether he can return to the air as before depends on internal negotiations, affiliate demands, advertiser confidence, and likely some public or on-air apology or corrective action. Before his death, Charlie Kirk publicly referenced Jimmy Kimmel at least once on social media. In October 2017, he posted a short critique on X, then Twitter, that read, "Jimmy Kimmel isn't funny." No additional context or extended commentary from Kirk about Kimmel is documented in major outlets prior to the 2025 controversy. The immediate trigger for ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live was not ratings, but Kimmel's monologue about Charlie Kirk's killing. Affiliates, led by Nexstar, announced they would preempt the show indefinitely, and the FCC chair publicly pressed ABC and its stations. The White House amplified the criticism, creating a regulatory and political storm that forced Disney's hand in mid-September. ABC and Disney executives described the move as a direct response to the backlash over the Kirk segment. Even critics who argued that Kimmel's ratings were already soft framed the suspension around the timeline of affiliate revolts and FCC pressure, not audience numbers. Still, the longer backdrop matters. Late-night television across networks has been in a steady slide, with ad revenue roughly halved since 2018. Smaller audiences make shows more vulnerable to controversy because stations and sponsors see less upside in defending them. Within that trend, Kimmel's decade-long performance shows a clear erosion. Compared to the mid-2000s, Jimmy Kimmel Live has lost significant ground in the 25 to 54 demographic that advertisers prioritize. That decline didn't directly cause the one-week decision to pull him, but it weakened his cushion with affiliates and advertisers. In 2025, Kimmel's metrics were mixed. He still managed some competitive wins in the 18 to 49 demo on certain weeks, but total viewership often trailed Stephen Colbert and swung unpredictably. By August and September, average weekly viewers hovered around 1.1 million, a notable dip from earlier in the year. The bottom line is that the suspension was triggered by the Kirk segment backlash, affiliate rebellion, and FCC involvement, but the long-term ratings erosion made it easier for ABC and Disney to bench the show, since it carried less growth potential and more political risk than in its peak years. So what really happened here? Was Jimmy Kimmel silenced over one reckless monologue, or did Disney finally find its excuse to dump a host with slipping rating? Was this political pressure crushing free speech, or a comedian finally crossing the line? If he'd said the same thing about a liberal activist, would ABC have acted this fast, or at all? Tell me in the comments, because this fight over free speech and corporate power is only getting started.